Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. When it is Tuesday, you know it's the Raw Leadership Talk, and today we are glad to have Dr. Paul with us, continuing with the discussion of the value of trust building that we've been having the whole of this month. This being our last Tuesday of the month of October. Can you imagine October is over? Just the other day it was January. So we are closing the month of October with Dr. Paul on the discussion of the value of trust building. It's been wonderful having you. Where are you joining us from? We want you to join in this conversation. Give us your thoughts. Share with us what you think, even as we progress with the Raw Leadership Talk. Listening to Let's Go Back Home, one of my songs. Let's go back home. In a moment, we'll begin this discussion. Let's go back home to the new body. Let's go back home. Let's go back home. Let's go back home to the new body. As we fly away from home. As we drive each other crazy. Very selfish. Where are you watching us from? Very hateful. We'd like to hear from you. Are you connecting with us right here from Kenya or from diaspora? Dr. Paul is joining us from Durban, South Africa. Let's connect to your friends. Bring them on to the Raw Leadership Talk. Thank you very much. Dr. Paul, how have you been?
I've been winning, my brother. It's really great to be here back again after a while, and I'm looking forward for our conversation tonight.
I know. I think the last time you were in the Raw Leadership Talk should have been in July or August?
It was August, yes.
Oh, in the month of August. Oh, great. Dr. Paul, I know you've been involved a lot with matters of democracy and governance in South Africa with your organization, DPP. And I'm sure trust building is not a new concept to you. I don't know, what comes to your mind when you hear the word trust building?
Actually, it becomes the gist of why we build relationships across society with all kinds of people, organizations, institutions, and even nations. It's all about the level of reliability and ability for everyone involved in that kind of an arrangement to be able to know that your word is your bond, literally. And so trust comes in as a very important ingredient that strengthens and molds relationships to make them fruitful, to make them worth our time, to make worth our investment. And it's one almost very elusive commodity right now in this post-pandemic environment, when people have been stretched to the maximum, organizations have been stretched to the maximum, and on all kinds of things have put pressure on relationships, whether it's institutional relationships among themselves, or between people and institutions, or between people themselves, or workers and their employers, or politicians and their members, or a state with its citizenry. So it is one of those elusive commodities right now that is very most precious and needs to be valued and to be nurtured.
Thank you very much. Do you think there is a need for trust building, moving towards the concept of trust building? I know we've been talking a lot about peace building, but then it's possible for people to exist or live in peace, but they don't really trust each other. Do you think there is a need for trust building in our community, and especially this side of Africa?
Very, very, very important. As especially as you said, you just described what sometimes looks like what politicians do very every day with people, uh,
Mm-hmm.
trying to say what they don't mean. And
Mm-hmm.
you see, when we talk about trust, we're really talking about working what you say and doing what you say and meaning
Yeah.
to do what you say. And because as people, generally, without even other things that we've built around our lives as people, institutions, relationships, doing work, and all things, as people, just as social beings, one of the most
Mm-hmm.
important ingredient that really strengthens our bonds is ability to be trusted and to be in a trustworthy environment. And so
Yeah.
you will discover that when that commodity is strained or is eliminated in our equation as human beings, it doesn't matter what really people do. When
Mm-hmm.
that has been lost, a society becomes very fragile, an institution
Mm-hmm.
becomes very fragile, a home becomes very fragile, organizations become very fragile because the one important commodity that needs to be taken care of and nurtured continuously
Yes.
becomes strained or lost. There are very powerful benefits of making sure that we're in a very trustful relationship or environment. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you about four of them. One of them is that it enables people to be loyal to whatever they are agreed to do together because
Mm-hmm.
they believe and they count each other reliable in a relationship. Second
Mm-hmm.
thing it does is to eliminate stress. When
Mm-hmm.
people are in a trustworthy environment or in a trustworthy relationship, there is no second guessing of one's
Mm-hmm.
intentions. And this is what we see it's really affecting our continent, for example,
Mm-hmm.
because rarely do we see that element of trust, especially in politics,
Mm-hmm.
even now corporately in corporates, and now it has actually gone into households. Where we see families fighting against each other because somebody decided to do something that affected relationships so severely. We are seeing increasing gender-based violence, for example, across the continent. One of the reasons is because that element called trust is lost. You see, so when it is there, we eliminate incidences of stress. The third thing that this does, this valuable concept does to us when we embrace it, it helps us to nurture our self-esteem. When
Mm-hmm.
people belong to a trustworthy environment and in a relationship that is trustworthy, there is that almost automatic sense of confidence. And so when that is lost, people do not, they are like amoeba. They
Mm-hmm.
lose shape. Yeah, they don't know where they are coming and where they are going. They don't know what to do and what not to do because this element that is so important that holds them together makes them become very, fluid in everything. Even the sense of judgment is lost because there is no stability. It's one concept that gives people stability in life, and when it's lost, the ability to exercise good judgment, ability to make good decisions, and ability to sustain peaceful coexistence is
Mm-hmm.
lost. And then the last thing I'd like to talk about that is about when this concept is nurtured. Why is it important? It creates the fabric through which society builds for future generations. You
Mm-hmm.
can never build on a faulty foundation. And so when the concept of trust is lost, even in societal relationships, that society cannot last because everybody is suspicious of the next person. And therefore, you
Mm-hmm.
find now in very volatile situations because of where we are right now in the world, elements like xenophobia, racism, gender-based
Mm-hmm.
violence, they increase because of the suspicions about you. One person may not be really interested in my being, is really interested in what they can get out of me. The trust element is lost. And when it's lost, we become like a jungle. Anything goes and anything wins and anything destroys us as a people.
Thank you very much. Wonderful thoughts right there. If you're tuning in and you're watching us, I'm sure you've gotten those 4 points: loyalty, stress is eliminated, esteem, and also building for future generation. And the initiatives of Change Kenya, we began doing the trust building program, bringing the what we call the interfaith and interethnic program, bringing Muslims and Christians together in Garissa and in Mombasa to go beyond just existing in peace and building trust with them across the
Mm,
divide, destroying
mhm.
all barriers that hinder us from integrating and living
Mm.
harmoniously and
Exactly.
moving to do things together, regardless of our different ethnic or religious perspective. And that's what
Mm,
we are discussing today. And right now, we are actually organizing for what we call the trust building, the first ever trust building charity run. And this time round is going to be virtual. And you can donate or register uh, towards the program by donating 2,000 to register yourself using the pay bill and the accounts uh, that you're seeing on your screen, so that you become part and parcel of this important initiative. Not just running, but running for a good cause. So, back to you, Dr. Paul.
mhm.
Talking about loyalty, do you think democracy has really helped in Africa to develop that loyalty between governments and their people? As we are talking, Mali is in trouble right now. As
Yes.
we are talking, Sudan is in trouble. Do you think loyalty has really helped? Democracy has really helped in building loyalty between the citizenry and those in power.
There's two answers to that. There's a long one and a short one. The short one is no,
Mm,
it hasn't. The long one is the reasons why it is a no. Because if we might think about the dawn of independence of most countries on our continent,
mhm,
brought hope, firstly from the freedom of colonialism. Yeah,
mhm,
we were in so many years under slavery, under colonial rule, and so the concept of independence and emancipation from slavery of some sort brought a lot of hope, and almost forgot we forgot the pain that
mhm,
our forefathers went through to create the environment that we established today. And so the fight for the battle to be freed for colonial powers and to gain freedom, and especially in this case, political freedoms,
mhm,
came with it with a baggage. One of the baggage that it brought with is that there has been inertia of political parties that liberated the most countries on our continent from
mhm,
transitioning from liberation mindset to an enabling parties or the enabling democracies that allow citizens to freely engage with them without feeling that they owe them anything. Now,
mhm,
why am I saying this? The sense of feeling that they owe them something, it has come out to now to a place where there is you have to create alliances
mhm,
for you to gain anything either from the state at whichever level, whether it's a local level of governance or regional or national. And that what has created is what one of the biggest things that we are fighting with, which is one of the reasons why you see most of our countries on the continent in trouble. It has created
mhm.
corruption. And now corruption, actually under the belly of corruption is mistrust. Yeah.
Yes.
The extent that people cannot be contented by what they have, they want more every day, irrespective of what it takes to get the more. If it means to kill people, you will kill. If it means
Mhm,
to destroy a state, you will destroy. If it
mhm,
means to, close a part of an economy so that you can gain one part of the economy and become the sole monopoly, it will do that. So the
mhm,
reason why I'm saying the democracies have not created, has not really translated the loyalty to build trust, is because
mhm,
post revelation, what has happened now, political parties and states have become very self-centered. You
mhm.
see, and so the personal interests have overcome, or have now overruled national interest. And let me tell you,
Okay.
my brother, I would like to say four things upon which trust is built. One is consistency. You got to be consistent in what you said and what you promised. Now,
Mhm.
you asked a very powerful question about our state of governance in our continent. Do you think most governments have lived to what they promised? I know your answer.
Yes.
And I know the answer of most of your listeners right now, those who are
Mhm,
watching us. And because of that, the element of trust has weakened over time.
Oh,
Consistency is a
key.
very important pillar upon which trust is built, and for democracy to thrive,
Mhm.
consistency in messaging is very important over a period of time. Second, second thing is about communication. What do you keep on saying consistently that people can hold you accountable for? You see,
Mhm.
so it's very difficult to build trust when you are mixed messaging. And our governments, unfortunately, around our continent are not very good with that.
Mhm.
They say one thing in the morning, and another thing in the afternoon, and another
Mhm.
thing in the evening. And then tomorrow, they say they never said anything. So you carry people along the journey. And at some stage, when people have just started embracing your vision or embracing your mission, you drop them.
Mhm.
The moment you
Mhm.
do that, you interfere with trust. And then when you interfere with the trust, you interfere with loyalty. The one reason why, for example, our countries are now witnessing a new trend of many political parties contesting for political power is
Yes.
because there is a lot of personal interest in everything that these politics have to offer. The quest for
Mhm.
power, but the quest for control, and that has created mixed messaging. So you will hear the one mouth saying one thing in the morning, and the same mouth say something else in the evening. Why? Because the element of loyalty is not there. And because of that, mixed messaging becomes the order of the day. The third component is about competencies. People, citizenry want to know that their governments are competent to
Yes.
deliver on what they promise. And Africa is not short of competent people. It has
Mhm.
very, very competent human resources. Most of them are actually now functioning outside of their countries. But
Mhm.
because we have not been able to deliver to the satisfaction of our citizenry, we have interfered with trust, and therefore loyalty has become almost very elusive. And it's why one of the reasons why we see ourselves in trouble as a continent in most countries.
Well, there is this notion, Dr. Paul, that 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 the citizenry is the problem. That we get the leaders that we deserve, because when we talk about competency, these competent people don't really project the competence, or they don't come out to offer themselves for leadership. And on the other side, we have the problem of a citizenry that really is not interested in good leadership. They are interested on their own people, and on their own could mean somebody of your class, somebody of your ethnic group, and these people may be incompetent, but the people want them. How do we deal with that to create internal trust before even we create external trust between the citizenry, even before we come to governance together?
Definitely. And that's a very powerful point you're placing right there. The first place to begin with is to start by informing ourselves, why
Yes.
do we do what we do as a people? Now, if we're talking in terms of governance and politics and leadership, the first place to begin with is what I call civic education. It is
Mhm.
simply informing yourself as a citizen by asking yourself very pertinent questions that only you can answer. Who am I? What is
Yes.
my role in this society? What is my purpose? And what is my contribution to the well being of my neighbor, as a citizen? Because there is no other place where we find our sense of humanity than
Mhm.
understanding that your well being is as good as my well being. If I seek your well being, then we are most likely going to have a well being, a society where everyone's welfare is looked after. But
Yes.
because of individualism and self centeredness, it becomes very difficult to break those barriers in people's minds and hearts. Because let me tell you, my brother,
Mhm.
there is no legislation on earth that can change a heart.
Completely. I agree.
The only one thing that can change a heart, and we all talk about religion and faiths, is the element of our spiritualism that is informed by our sense of understanding that as human beings, we owe each other compassion, we owe each other love, and we owe each other honesty. That
Mhm.
is the element that our society has lost now, the element of compassion. We cannot, for example, be spending almost quarter of our GDPs as governments to respond to crime and safety prevention. It's unbelievable. We are spending so much money as governments to fix societal ills that can be fixed at home when we understand why do we belong to this society as a people. So the first place is to inform yourself by understanding who you are and why are you in that society and what is your contribution. The second thing is to embrace the sense of good governance. Now, there's nobody who is born a thief. There's nobody who is born a rich person. We all make choices at some stage in our levels of life. As we move from one season to another, we are making choices that some of these choices are ill-informed. And so as we embrace the way society is organizing itself, we start picking up habits and ideas and behaviors that inform our decision making, and we start feeling the gaps that we've been feeling in ourselves as a people because we are not whole inside. We are defragmented inside. And so
Yeah.
the first thing by start connecting is to look inside. What is broken in me that I need to fix so that I can be able to become a productive person in my society, guided by values? Because when a person is guided by values, there is already an internal GPS that tells you, don't do that one. And it's not about religion. It's not because you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Hindu or whoever you are. When there is a value system that guides a person, it becomes an internal measure to say, don't go that direction, go this way. Don't engage in those activities, engage in these ones. You see, when that value system is lost, then there is no compass for life. And this is one of the things that I believe, if we can go back to embracing values and principles that make us function as people, most of these problems that we're dealing with will not even be there. We will not need to be spending almost quarter of our GDPs of our economy in fixing societal ills. We should be spending such amounts of money in developing our communities and our countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. And just to the viewers here, Ombugu Judy says, nice conversation, very true, that mistrust causes fragility, instability, and uncertainty. This puts peace at stake. Thank you, Judy. Crystal Patrick Kizito says, very rich conversation. Esundege said, tuned. Onjiku Gicho says, powerful. Thank you very much for tuning in. Keep those comments coming. If you have any contribution, you have a question that you would like to engage us with, we are more than willing to engage with you, even as matters of trust are concerned. Dr. Paul, Kenya is going towards the election, and I know while you live and work in South Africa, you have Kenyan roots, and a lot of mistrust already being manifested from the people are doubting the economic promises. People are doubting the governance promises that are being made. And one of the things that I've observed is people have become lethargic. They are not even going to register for, to get as voters. IBC, I was surprised the other day in my area when an IBC official was going from shop to shop asking people to go and register. And I'm beginning to think, what really could be the reason for this? Does it mean we have lost it? And people are no longer interested in participating in governance or even in choosing leaders to represent them. And then the drums of war and people beginning to use language that is perverted to just arouse and incite people. I don't know what is your take even as you bring this to an end, and what would be your advice?
You see, that's a very powerful scenario that you've just painted there. And apparently, it's not just a Kenyan phenomenon; it's across our continent because majority of our countries on our continent are suffering from the same dilemma, which I would call voter apathy. And the reason why we see voter hesitancy to participate in such an important civic exercise partly relies because of mistrust between the state and her people. And one of the causes of mistrust between the state and her people is failed promises that have not been fulfilled. And just like in in any relationship, when that element is missing, the element of trust. Remember, I said one of the pillars upon which trust is built is consistent messaging. And you cannot say one thing today and do another thing tomorrow, and then you lose people because your word is no longer now a bond. Now, what we see now in our state of politics is that what people have been told over a couple of years now, we've come back to another election cycle, and this time around, the promises that were made have not been fulfilled. In fact, to a great extent, majority of the people have lost what they had than what they have now. They have lost a sense of self-esteem. Poverty has increased. There is diminished income opportunities, minimum economic opportunities to participate in, and the list goes on and on. These things do eat into people's trust into government. So you can see one of the indicators or signs of mistrust is apathy. And when people are deciding that they're not going to participate, they are actually saying indirectly they have lost hope in what their politicians do say. And they have reduced that or minimized the expectation to a place of just being there to be seen but not actually participating. So how do we fix it? There are four ways we can fix this. Number one, it's important for politicians to admit when they are wrong, because that's the beginning of healing their trust, because trust is costly. When it's lost, it's very expensive. Now, to win it back, you first of all to have to admit you're wrong, which is one of the hardest things that politicians can ever do. But they are humans and they need to know that. And they know they can be forgiven, but they also need to walk the talk. So first of all, admit you're wrong. Secondly, now commit to do things right and do them right. Be intentional to do things right. So once you've promised to do what you need to do and you're in power, deliver what you said. It is simple as that. Yeah. And then the third thing you need to do, of course, be aware that you're dealing with a very fragile generation. Fragile in the matter that majority of the people right now are not those who are there in the pre-independent days, who were exposed to hardships and for the fight they had to put up so that they can free themselves from the colonial powers. There was only one way: fight and go forward. Now we're dealing with another generation that has never been exposed to kind of wars we're talking about. They've not been exposed to hardships like we're talking about. And so this generation of our generation now only relies on what you say, and they hold what you say and to that word alone. And so you have to understand the generation that you're working with to say this: honesty must be part of your messaging. And honesty has to be complemented by actions. What you say is what you do. And when you're wrong, you admit it and you fix it. Don't wait to be pushed to fix it. And the last thing, understand this: that trust is not built in a day. So if it has been lost, you're in a very long haul journey. You have to work even twice as hard to rebuild it and to establish it as a norm in your system and in your society. It has to be something that everyone must work towards to, and especially those whom have been given leadership opportunities. And so the process and the project of building trust is a very important part and parcel of a thriving democracy.
Thank you very much. Understand that trust is a process. Trust is a process. And as leaders, if we want to build trust, we got to engage in the process. We cannot use microwave techniques to be able to build trust with the current generation. Thank you very much, Dr. Paul. Always a pleasure to have you in the Raw Leadership Talk, giving those powerful nuggets that I'm sure they change and transform people to become the best kind of leaders this generation need. For those who have been watching us, thank you very much. Thank you for your persistence. Thank you for your support. Until next time, I say goodbye from our studios here at the Africa Center for Public Speaking. Looking forward to see you next Tuesday as we begin a new month, the second last month of the year, the month of November. May God bless you and keep it real. Keep growing in leadership.